Puberty is the transition from being a child to being an adult by the acquiring of the reproductive potential. Puberty is not a single step process, it is actually a culmination of 5 chronological events, and we shall be discussing that in today's video. The first change of puberty is adrenarche, followed by gonadarche, followed by thelarche, then puberche, and then menarche. So I use a mnemonic to remember these changes. A good trainee practices more. A. Adrenarche. Adrenarche is the activation of adrenal androgen production. G for gonadarche. Gonadarche is the growth spurt that is seen during puberty. T for thelarche. Thelarche is the increase in size of a tissue. Here the tissue is the breast. P for puberche. Puberche is development of pubic hair. M for menarche. Menarche means the onset of menses. So let us start with adrenarche first. Adrenarche, as I already told, is the activation of adrenal androgen secretion. So why does adrenarche happen? It happens because the adrenal responds to ACTH in a different way around 6 years of life in both males and females. If we remember this pathway, the adrenal steroid formation pathway, then what happens is cholesterol is taken up from blood. This cholesterol is then converted to pregnenolone. Pregnenolone, by the effect of the enzyme 17-alpha hydroxylase, is converted to 17-hydroxypregnenolone, and 1720 lyase converts it into dihydroepiandrosterone. This pregnenolone, again it is converted to progesterone by 3-beta hydroxysteroid dehydrogenase. Progesterone is converted to 17-hydroxyprogesterone by the same enzyme 17-alpha hydroxylase, and 17-hydroxyprogesterone is converted to androstenedione by the same enzyme 1720 lyase. This androstenedione again is converted in the peripheral tissues to estrogen by aromatase. Progesterone and 17-hydroxyprogesterone are converted to 11-deoxycorticosterone and 11-deoxycortisol by the enzyme 21-hydroxylase. 11-deoxycorticosterone and 11-deoxycortisol under the action of the enzyme 11-beta hydroxylase are converted to corticosterone and cortisol respectively. This corticosterone now by the enzyme aldosterone synthase changes to aldosterone. So this area of the adrenal cortex is the zona glomerulosa, where aldosterone, which is the major mineralocorticoid, is getting produced. This area where cortisol was produced is the zona fasciculata. Cortisol is the main glucocorticoid. And this area where androstenedione gets converted to testosterone, and testosterone again under the effect of aromatase in the peripheral tissue will get converted to estradiol. And similarly, this testosterone in the peripheral tissue by the action of enzyme 5-alpha reductase will get converted to dihydrotestosterone. Now why we are discussing these conversions, we'll be dealing with that later on. Now this androgen production is happening in the zona reticularis of the adrenal cortex. Mineralocorticoids, glucocorticoids, and sex corticoids. Now this area of the adrenal cortex, the zona glomerulosa, is actually under the influence of renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system. But zona fasciculata and zona reticularis are stimulated by adrenocorticotropic hormone produced by the basophilic cells of the anterior pituitary. So what happens in adrenarche here? ACTH production is happening from pituitary. Now this ACTH acts on adrenal and it alters this pathway a little bit. It will increase this equation of conversion and it will decrease this equation of conversion. Because of increase in this conversion, very high levels of DHEA will start getting produced. DHEA is dihydroepiandrosterone. Now this DHEA is the marker of onset of adrenarche. In children less than 5 years, the level of serum DHEA will be around 3 to 35 microgram per deciliter. But after 5 years of age, around 6 years, when this adrenarche is achieved, around 6 years, this DHEA levels, because of this response, it will increase and it will be more than 40 microgram per deciliter, and this is the best indicator of adrenarche. Coming to the second change, that is gonadarche, which is the pubertal growth spurt. It happens around 9 to 10 years. We will discuss growth in greater detail. Puberty, as I told, is the appearance of pubic hair. It will begin around 10 to 12 years, and the female pubercal development will be completed between 12 to 14 years, and the male pubercal development, the pubic hair development, will be completed between 13 to 15 years. Thelarche, which is the appearance of breast tissue, takes more time. It ranges from 8, the period of thelarche ranges from 8 to 13 years, and any girl with breast development less than 8 years implies that she is having premature breast development, clinically known as premature thelarche. Menarche is the onset of menses, which will begin around 12 to 13 years of life. So if the child has not attained menses by 14 years of life, you should suspect that the puberty is delayed. So if we want to have a simplified timeline, how do we remember when these changes are happening? Because this is complicated. Remember please that adrenarche happens around 6 years of life. Sequentially then gonadarche, thelarche, puberche and menarche respectively will happen around 9 years, 10 years, 11 years, 12 years. Easy enough? This is the average age. Now come to the first change, growth. Around 20%, more specifically if we are saying 18%, 20% of the total height is actually gained during puberty. The growth of the limbs will precede that of trunk, and the distal part of the limb will grow first and then the proximal part will grow. As we all must have noticed that the adult height of boys or men is usually more than females. This is because the boys are approximately 2 cm taller than girls when the girls have already reached their peak height velocity. After that also the boys will grow around 4 cm per year for another 2 years. So this is one reason. Another reason is that the peak height velocity of boys is more than girls. It is 9.3 cm per year in boys and 9 cm per year in girls. The second important change that happens in the period of puberty is the bone mass accumulation. Around 50 to 70% of the calcium deposition in the bones happens during puberty. So the window of opportunity to maximize the peak bone mass is very narrow. It is this pubertal years where adequate calcium rich diet must be given. Otherwise these children will later on develop osteoporosis early in their life. So why does growth spurt happen during puberty? Growth is dependent on growth hormones. So the levels of growth hormones, they actually peak during puberty, and after puberty, in every 7 years after puberty, the growth hormone will reduce by 50 years. So peak levels are seen during puberty. This is a same pulsatile fashion like GnRH. It will be produced in the same pulsatile kind of fashion, especially during sleep. So this is one reason, increased amount of growth hormone. And the other important reason is sex steroids itself. Sex steroids also increase the growth hormone secretion, and they will increase the levels of the growth hormone. So that will lead to the growth spurt. Now there is a condition called Laron dwarfism, in which the growth hormone levels are sufficient, but the receptor of the growth hormone is not working properly, and that will lead to growth failure, and this is known as Laron dwarfism. Now let us come to a very important discussion about how the sexual differentiation happens. How can we stamp a person to be a male or female? There are actually 5 categories that we need to discuss in order to stamp a person as a male or female. The first thing is genetic sex. Second is gonadal sex. Third is the external genitalia characteristics. Fourth being the secondary sexual characteristics, and fifth are the internal sex organs. The genetic sex can either be XY or XX. If it is XY, because of the SRY gene or the testis determining factor, the gonads will become testis. In the absence of Y chromosome, in the absence of SRY gene, the gonad will become an ovary. So what we understand from this is that by default everybody is a female. Only if there is a presence of Y chromosome, the gonad will become testis. If there is no Y chromosome, the gonad will by default become an ovary. Now, if there is XY, because of SRY gene and testis determining factor, a gene will be produced, the gene will be activated, and it will produce a protein called SOX9 gene will produce the SOX9 protein, and it will cause the somatic cells of the gonad to become Sertoli cells. So the gonads have actually two kinds of cells, germ cells and somatic cells. The germ cells of the gonads will become the spermatogonia and the oogonia respectively, and the somatic cells, which are formed by the coelomic epithelium, the mesenchyme, the mesonephric tissue, all of these will form the supporting tissues of the gonad. So the somatic cells of the gonads, under the presence of SOX9 gene, because of the presence of SRY gene from the Y chromosome, the somatic cells will become Sertoli cells. So these Sertoli cells will then produce a hormone called anti-Mullerian hormone. This anti-Mullerian hormone, as the name suggests, will inhibit the Mullerian duct. And once the Mullerian duct is inhibited, uterus, fallopian tube and upper part of vagina will regress in a male fetus. Again, once the Sertoli cells are produced, around 6 weeks of life, around 7 weeks, another set of cells will get produced. They are known as the Leydig cells. These Leydig cells will produce testosterone. This testosterone will lead to the development of the Wolffian duct structures. Wolffian duct structures are seminal vesicle, epididymis, ejaculatory duct and vas deferens. This testosterone will then get converted into the peripheral tissues to dihydrotestosterone, and this dihydrotestosterone will act on the external genitalia also, and it will make it a male type. So this is how the XY genetic makeup will lead to the internal sexual development of the male type and the external genitalia development of the male type. But if there is absence of Y chromosome, then what will happen? No Y chromosome means there is no SRY, means there is no SOX9. In these cases, because of the absence of SOS9, ovarian determining factors like WNT4, DAX1, these proteins will be activated, and they will cause the somatic cells of the gonad to become follicles, and this will lead to the onset of the ovarian development. Now, because there is no Sertoli cell formation, we will not have no Sertoli cells, so no AMH. Now, if there is no AMH, the Mullerian duct will not be inhibited, so it will grow. It will grow into what? Uterus, fallopian tubes and the upper part of vagina. More specifically, the upper 1/3. Now, once Sertoli cells are not developing, the Leydig cells will not also develop. So, in the absence of Leydig cells, there will be no testosterone. In the absence of testosterone, the Wolffian duct will regress. Hence, the male internal organs will not form in a female. Similarly, because the testosterone is not present, It will not be converted into dihydrotestosterone. Remember here that even the external genitalia are by default female in everybody. Only if the testosterone is converted by the enzyme 5-alpha reductase to dihydrotestosterone, this dihydrotestosterone by its action on the external genitalia can make it male type. In the absence of testosterone and hence dihydrotestosterone, the external genitalia will by default become female. Okay, so this is how the external genitalia is developing and the internal sex organs are developing in males and females respectively. Then comes the final category, that is the secondary sexual characteristics. The secondary sexual characteristics can be divided into the pubic and armpit hair and the breast in females. The breast in females primarily depend upon the presence of estrogen. So as we discussed in the first video, at around 10 to 11th year of life, by the 2-cell 2 gonadotrophin mechanism, the ovary will start producing 17 beta estradiol. Now this estradiol levels, once they increase and the serum levels can be maintained at least at 10 picogram per ml, then the process of thelarchy will start. Pubic hair and armpit hair, they are only dependent upon the presence of androgen. So these are the various characteristics which define whether a person is a male or a female. Now let us come to the external genitalia development in a little detail. The external genitalia starts developing around 3rd week. So this is the trilaminar disc. As we remember from embryology that the bilaminar disc is present around 2nd week, and by the process of gastrulation it forms the trilaminar disc around 3rd week. It has 3 layers: ectoderm, mesoderm and endoderm, and this is the notochord. This is the primitive streak, and this is the primitive node, and this is the procaudal plate, and this is the cloacal membrane. Now what will happen? Mesenchymal cells, they will migrate from the primitive streak to the cloacal membrane, and they will lead to the formation of cloacal folds. Okay, so this cloacal folds will then develop 3 constrictions. The first constriction here is the genital tubercle. This is the second constriction, and the third constriction here is the anal tubercle. Now look at the second constriction. The innermost part in green is the urogenital membrane, which will later form the urogenital sinus. The red color flanking fold, the red color fold immediately lateral to the urogenital membrane are the urogenital folds or the urethral folds, and the blue colored folds here lateral to the red folds are the genital swellings, also known as the labioscrotal swellings. Now what will happen? This portion of the external genitalia, this particular stage of the external genitalia is the bipotential external genitalia state. That means from this state it can become a male or it can become a female. If there is XY, the LH will act on the Leydig cells and will produce testosterone, and the testosterone will be converted to dihydrotestosterone by the enzyme 5-alpha reductase around 8 to 9 weeks. This dihydrotestosterone by the 10th week will convert the genital tubercle into phallus, the urogenital fold into penile urethra, and the genital swellings into the scrotum, and this change is completed by the 12 to 14 weeks. Let us come back to the slide here. So this part, this red fold, this genital tubercle will become the phallus, this urogenital fold will become the penile urethra, and the genital swelling will become the scrotum. Alright. Now in the absence of dihydrotestosterone, this thing will become a female type. So this genital tubercle in the absence of dihydrotestosterone will form the clitoris. This urogenital membrane will form the urogenital sinus, from which the sinovaginal bulb will develop, and it will lead to the development of the lower two-thirds of the vagina. This flanking red part, the urogenital fold, will become the labia minora, and the blue part, the genital swellings, will become the labia majora. Now this is the adult version. All right, so this is how it happens. So if we summarize, the genetic sex will determine the gonadal sex. The gonads will produce hormones, and because of these hormones there will be sexual differentiation of the external genitalia. Similarly, these gonads, once they produce certain hormones during puberty, like the estrogen, it will lead to the formation of the secondary sexual characteristics, and all of these will be finally responsible for the gender identity or the gender stamping that we do. Okay, so if we summarize, adrenarche is the production of the adrenal androgens. Growth, that is gonadarche, is the growth phase, which is because of growth hormones and sex steroids. Thelarche is majorly because of estrogen. Puberche is because of androgen, and it is the armpit and genital hair development. Presence of androgen in both males and females governs the puberche. This thelarche and puberche, breast development and this armpit and genital hair development, these constitute the secondary sexual characteristics. We can actually see the breast development, and we can stage the breast development. Similarly, the pubic hair growth also can be staged. In females, when we are staging the breast development, in males we stage the genital development. Now this staging of the secondary sexual characteristic has been done by Marcel and Tanner, also known as the Tanner staging for the secondary sexual characteristics, which stages the breast development in girls, pubic hair development in both sexes, and the genital development in boys. The stages range from 1 to 5, 1 being the prepubertal stage and 5 being the adult stage. So if we are seeing the stage of thelarche stage 1 is the prepubertal stage. In stage 2 there is enlargement and widening of the areola. In the stage 3 the breast enlarges and becomes elevated beyond the areola. In stage 4 secondary mounts will develop, and in stage 5 the adult contour of the breast will be obtained. In puberche, let us come to the puberche of the female here. The stage 1 is prepubertal. Stage 2 is also known as pre-sexual hair, where the pubic hairs are long and straight. Stage 3 is sexual hair. The hairs now are curly and coarse. Stage 4 is metastasion, covers the whole of the labia, and when the hair covers the medial part of the thigh also, that is the adult stage of the pubic hair, stage 5. So this is how the pubertal milestones are achieved. We do not have to know the exact age at which is happening. Only if you remember that adrenarche at 6, gonadarche, thelarche, puberche, menarche at 9, 10, 11 and 12 years respectively, then we are done. Now, what are the common problems associated with puberche? Because of the high levels of dihydroepiandrosterone, which is an androgen, acne or pimples are very important problems. There are psychosocial problems happening because peers are developing more, the voice is changing, breasts are developing, girls are not very comfortable with that. So this will lead to psychosocial problems. Myopia develops during puberty because the growth in the axial diameter of the eye is greatest during puberty. And as I told you that the estrogen levels are not high enough and there is a short luteal phase, this all will lead to dysfunctional uterine bleeding. Adolescents, because of lack of sexual education, also have a higher rate of sexually transmitted infection. The persistence of the columnar epithelium on the exocervix, also known as ectropion, predisposes to chlamydia and human papilloma virus. In the next video, we shall be discussing about pathologies of puberty, the first being precocious puberty and being the delayed puberty. Thank you for now.